The forest floor was slick with blood, every step sinking into damp pine needles that clung to shoes like a warning. The air was thick with the coppery temps of death, each breath burning the lungs as the lone survivor pushed forward through the trees. Their heartbeat thundered in their ears, louder than the crunch of branches breaking underfoot, louder than the whispers of wind that seemed to curl around them with malicious intent. Somewhere behind, the guttural growl rose again, low at first, but swelling into a rumble that vibrated through the ground. The sound was closer now, heavy footsteps pounding after them, deliberate and relentless like a predator playing with prey. Panic surged through their veins as shadows danced in their peripheral vision, the shapes too large, too fast to belong to anything human. A cold moon bled pale light through the canopy, turning the mist into a silver shroud that blurred the edges of reality. Each breath came out ragged, mingled with choked sobs they didn't realize were their own, the cold air burning their throat raw. Their legs screamed in pain but refused to stop moving, driven by the primal need to escape whatever nightmare stalked them. They stumbled over a root, catching themselves just in time, the sharp sting of torn skin on their palms. Barely registering over the overwhelming terror flooding their senses, somewhere deeper in the woods, a sharp crack echoed a branch, snapping under enormous weight, followed by the sickening sound of claws dragging along bark. The survivor didn't dare look back, but their mind painted vivid images of what they would see if they did. A towering shadow, teeth gleaming wet in the moonlight, closing the distance with terrifying speed, the promise of violence hanging heavy in the frigid night air behind them. The sound shifted from pursuit to something far more sickening. The growls gave way to wet, tearing noises, the crunch of bones snapping under inhuman strength. The air was filled with the stench of opened flesh, metallic and rancid, drifting through the trees as if carried by some malevolent wind. The survivor could hear the slurping, the gnawing, the wet, rhythmic sounds of something feeding without restraint. Every noise was punctuated by a sharp crack, a tendon snapping, a limb being wrenched free from its socket. The sound was so vivid they could almost feel it under their skin, their stomach churning with nausea and dread. The forest seemed to hold its breath, every creature gone silent, as if acknowledging the dominance of the predator now feasting. Somewhere beneath the sounds of carnage, there was a low, guttural purr, a chilling noise of satisfaction that made the hair on their necks stand up. It was feeding, but it would not stop. There it was, pausing, savoring, as if the kill had been nothing more than an appetizer before the real hunt continued. The pause in pursuit was almost worse than the chase itself, because it left the survivor's mind to fill in the horrors they could not see. They imagined the body, or what was left of it, mangled beyond recognition, ribs jutting out like jagged white spears, skin hanging in ribbons from splintered bone. Somewhere behind them, the sound of chewing stopped, replaced by an eerie silence that felt heavier than any sound before it. The only noise left was the slow, deliberate crunch of footsteps, resuming, closing in again, each step wet with the blood it had just consumed, leaving a crimson trail through the moonlit pines that would not fade. The moonlight broke through the canopy in fractured beams, casting silver light on the forest floor as the survivors stumbled into a small clearing. They stopped, chest heaving, and for the first time got a clear view of what had been chasing them. The creature stepped from the shadows with an unnatural slowness, as if it knew there was nowhere left to run. Its full, horrific form was revealed, and this sight was enough to freeze the survivor's blood. Its skin, or what remained of it, hung in loose, rotting sheets, muscles twitching beneath as if alive on their own. Black, glistening veins pulsed along its limbs, feeding into a chest that rose and fell in jerks, each breath accompanied by a rattling hiss. Its eyes were the worst two deep pits, glowing faintly red, as though lit from some hellish furnace inside. They didn't just look, they reached inside, pulling at the survivor's thoughts, making it impossible to look away. The mouth split wider than any human jaw could. Rows of jagged teeth layered like a shark's, wet with strands of blood and shredded sinew that dripped to the pine needles below. The smell hit next, a wave of rot, copper, and damp earth that clung to the air like poison. It took a step forward, and the light caught on something embedded in its chest-on old hunting knife, rusted and fused into the flesh as if it had been there for decades, yet caused no harm. Its long, skeletal fingers flexed, nails more like talons, clicking together as if impatient for the moment they would slice into warm skin. The survivor could see old scars crisscrossing its body, deep and unnatural, each one looking like it had been stitched together, not by hands, but by something far less precise, more like chewed and forced shut. Its legs bent wrong, joints shifting with a nauseating pop, allowing it to move in short, jerking bursts that seemed both animal and disturbingly human. The air around it seemed to hum, as though the forest itself recognized the predator and recoiled. Even without moving closer, the creature radiated hunger, its gaze never breaking, its chest rising faster now, anticipation quickening as the distance between predator and prey dissolved into nothing. The survivor's legs trembled as the creature lunged, its speed defying its size and mangled frame. In an instant, the pine needles beneath their feet became a blur, the world narrowing to the pounding of their own heartbeats and the guttural roars behind them. Branches whipped against their face, slicing skin and drawing thin rivulets of blood that mixed with sweat. They could hear it closing in those sickening, wet footfalls pounding the earth. The snapping of twigs, not just underfoot but high above, as if it moved through the trees as easily as on the ground. A shadow passed over them, and a split second later, a clawed hand slammed into their shoulder, the force sending them sprawling into the dirt. Pain shot up their arm as they scrambled away, their fingers sinking into damp soil streaked with blood that wasn't theirs, still warm, still fresh. They dared a glance back and saw the creature's face up close for the first time. It wasn't just twisted flesh. It was wrong in ways the human mind fought to understand. Pieces of faces, different faces seemed, embedded into its skin as though it had stolen them, wearing them like trophies. One eye was cloudy and dead, the other burned with that same hellish glow. It opened its mouth, and the sound that came out was not a roar, not a scream, but something worse, a chorus of voices, some male, some female, all begging, all overlapping in disparate, broken pleas. The survivor's breath caught their muscles locking for a heartbeat too long. And in that pause, it struck again. Talons raked across their side, tearing through fabric and flesh, heat and agony blooming instantly. They rolled onto their back, kicking wildly, the heel of their boot connecting with its leg, which bent at an impossible angle but did not falter. The thing leaned closer, its breath hot and putrid, reeking of death and decay, dripping onto their cheek in warm, sticky drops. Somewhere deep inside the creature's chest, something pulsed, a thick, glowing vein that seemed to beat like a second heart. For the briefest moment, the survivor realized this was not just a monster born of the woods, but something ancient and stitched together from countless lives taken over decades, maybe centuries. Its very being fueled by the blood, it spilled the survivor's scream, tore through the night, echoing off the pines as the creature pinned them down with a strength that felt inhuman. Its claws dug deep into their shoulders, hot blood spilling and soaking into the cold earth beneath them. The moonlight caught the glistening crimson coating its jagged teeth as it leaned closer, its mismatched eyes locking onto theirs with hunger that was almost sentient. Every breath it took rattled through its chest, carrying with it the stench of rotting meat and damp soil. Desperation surged, and the survivor's hand fumbled for anything stone, branch, even a sharp piece of bone lying in the dirt. Their fingers wrapped around it just as the creature's claws began to press harder, threatening to pierce completely through muscle and bone. With a cry, they drove the jagged object into that glowing vein in its chest. The creature reared back, an inhuman shriek, tearing through the forest, shaking the ground beneath them. Blood, not red, but thick and black, gushed from the wound, splattering the survivor's face and clothing, burning where it touched skin as if it carried venom. The monster thrashed, its talons carving deep scars into the ground, uprooting chunks of moss and soil. Shadows in the trees seemed to move with it, almost as though the forest itself was alive, bending and twisting to protect its abomination. The voices inside the creature's throat grew louder, more frenzied, as if they were all screaming in unison. The survivor tried to crawl away, their body shaking, vision swimming, but the creature's tailor, what looked like a tail, snapped around their ankle like a whip, dragging them back through the mud. Their nails clawed at the ground, ripping free handfuls of pine needles and blood-soaked dirt as the monster loomed over them once more, its jaw unhinging wider than any human or animal could, revealing a throat lined with teeth that seemed to go on forever.
Please like and subscribe channel Fear Frequency for more horror stories. Thank you.